Ghost of Tsushima, the Sucker Punch game for the PlayStation 4, is a sandbox Dark Souls style game where you are a samurai Jin who is defending against the invasion of the Mongolians. I'm Nanners, this is Quickscope. I want to talk about it real quick. So, recently released July 2020, Ghost of Tsushima is a very interesting game to say the least. And really what prompted me to buy it was just the fact that I'm a Sucker Punch fan. I've always been a fan of their Infamous games. I like the Sly series as well. I see it as a really important studio, and if they were going to be putting out another major game, I 100% wanted to buy it. Also, this was looking to be like it was going to be one of Sony's big heavy hitters for the PlayStation 4 console that is now slowly on its way out. So some of the pros in Ghost of Tsushima is that the game is very beautiful. What I like best about the graphics of it is that it doesn't shy away from colorful scenery. You will absolutely see a stunning range of color if you just travel from one end of the map to the other. Another thing is, I think they have a great system of progression in terms of the skills that you upgrade throughout the course of the game. Again, I've not finished the game, but I enjoy actually working towards unlocking new skills and finding new tools and weapons to use, and they definitely become helpful, especially towards later parts of the game and certain sections where there is a lot of challenge. I would also say that this game is probably a really neat experience for anyone who is a fan of Japanese samurai media, so like Japanese cinema and whatnot. It does feel very authentic to the history of the samurai and Japan's history, as well as Japanese samurai cinema. The game definitely has moments where it really just comes together and you can enjoy the experience. That being said, there are issues with the game. It is pretty buggy. Nothing game-breaking, nothing on the levels of, let's say, a Bethesda game, but it definitely has a lot more bugs than I was expecting, especially since I've played Sucker Punch's other games like Infamous and Sly Cooper, and usually they're not very buggy, but there are a lot of moments where the players will just like clip into the wall, or there's even kind of a moment where you can see you could see Jin's eyeballs if you zoom the camera through like the transitioning of like walking through a door. The camera pans in way too close, and suddenly it's inside of the body of the character, and then you just see his eyeballs in space, and it looks weird, and it absolutely reminds me of Assassin's Creed Unity, which is a giant mess. Not what I was expecting in this. I thought it'd be more polished. The bugs are not the real issue. Okay, so a major problem with this game is that, yes, it plays in a way similar to Infamous, which again, I love. I love that sort of sandbox gameplay style. But the problem is that even though it feels familiar to something I love, it also feels dated. And a lot of these mechanics, it feels like they did not improve enough on them. I don't normally play these kinds of games, so for me personally, it is a refreshing experience since I haven't played anything like this in a while. But at the same time, a lot of the good old Infamous gameplay that I love is now basically standard in tons of AAA games, from like Assassin's Creed to, what have you, to the point of ad nauseum. And I think that for a lot of people, this is going to turn them off of this game. For example, tailing missions. Everybody hates tailing missions. It's such a cliche at this point. And here, I hate them just as much as I hate them in any other game. I don't think Sucker Punch did a good job of making it better and making them more enjoyable to do. It still just feels like something that's thrown in once in a while to break up the monotonous gameplay that's, in the rest of the game. That's unfortunate because they do rely on the tailing mission quite a bit here. I could see why when stealth is such an important part of the game, but at this point, developers need to come up with a way of making tailing missions more enjoyable. Otherwise, they just shouldn't put them into their games. And I feel like Sucker Punch did not make them enjoyable in this game. And speaking of gameplay, some of the areas that you have to liberate in this game are so vast. As you start to explore and really go into it, it becomes overwhelming if you really want to go through the whole thing just doing stealth, which again is a big part of the game. But when you have to spend 30 minutes to liberate one area of this giant map, it gets a little bit much. I would much rather they made it so that you could get through some of these sections a lot quicker, because we just have such a big map to explore, and that could be a little bit dull. And speaking of dull, the game is incredibly cinematic, has these beautiful shots, and there's a lot of the time where in between cutscenes they will hold the control from the player for an additional 3 to 4 seconds. And I mean, as much as that's good on the side of making it an interesting experience to look at, I think you're gonna have to have a lot of patience to enjoy this game, because otherwise it's going to feel slow paced, and I think that's again gonna be another one of those turnoffs for players. So overall, I would say that I am disappointed with the game. I definitely expected better from Sucker Punch, but I don't mean to cut this game down immediately there. I am hopeful that as I unlock new upgrades, the game can really start to open up, and I'm definitely invested in the story. I just overall feel like Sucker Punch didn't do the best job here. And when you really think about it, a lot of the negative stuff in this game makes so much sense, because the game just has a lot going into it. They have an attempt at telling a cinematic level story and making these beautiful movie level visuals. They have Dark Souls style gameplay, but they also have stealth, which initially made this kind of feel like it was even going to be almost Metal Gear-esque. They have sandbox elements to the game, and I mean so much more. And then when they crammed all of this into this one game, the problem is you start to compare it to other games that do similar things, and you realize that Ghost of Tsushima is lacking in these departments. Like, if you put Ghost of Tsushima for its gameplay up for comparison with Dark Souls or Nioh, you'll find that it's probably not as good. Those games have their combat systems more fleshed out, and the way you fight enemies, you know, all these meters like more fleshed out. Whereas Ghost of Tsushima, you know, I mean, maybe they only had so much they could dedicate to the gameplay, or to the cinematic, or to the sandbox of it. It feels like they should have toned it down on some of these gameplay elements in order to get a more precise experience that worked best for Ghost of Tsushima. And you see this, a lot of people have criticized this game for having a lot of the same stuff you will see in other AAA games that just at this point feels familiar and bland. So I think for me personally, I'm okay with this game, but I get the feeling a lot of gamers will be dissatisfied, and that is a shame. I've been playing this game for about 8 hours, and I definitely see myself going through the rest of this game, without a doubt, just more casually. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next Two Stupid Gamers video.